Hey everybody, this is the Raw Food Podcast. I am Skye and this is JJ, and we are going to get in today to talk about what the raw lifestyle looks like when you first start. Hey JJ.
Hey, how are you?
Good,
Thank you
how are
for
you?
having me. Or I guess we're
Always.
filming to both pages, so we are
Filming everywhere. We want to get this out to you
everywhere.
guys.
Yes, CBS, NBC has it
Yeah.
now. But
ABC here in Australia, maybe.
yes, ABC, all of them, right? Even
Oh.
CNN's got us. But we are just so happy to be here because I think one of the things we have in common is both of us are so passionate about beginners because it's a very delicate phase, I feel like, of the journey. Like it can be whether you make success or not even success but stick to it, or something makes you run the other way. And that's why I think we're protective of our beginners, and we like to do content to help you.
Yeah, and this topic, I reckon I could do a few weeks worth of talking on, because it was like when I realized what the raw foods did for my body, I had to be so real with myself about where I was at and what was humanly possible when it comes to being raw. You could look at it like I had a negative going on, but I kind of see it as a positive. But I've been disconnected from people, media. I couldn't concentrate very well or read very well when I found this lifestyle. So it was just me and the veg. It was me and like, what do I feel like? And I made it my own, as in, like, if I want an avocado, 2 avocados, I'll have it. If I want a piece of fruit now, I'll have it. Because the whole thing was I had to stay raw.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what that looked like, and that was for me. And what I actually just had a comment over on YouTube, a very long comment about going raw. And this woman who wanted to go raw, and now she's struggling because her husband is not raw, but also she wants hot food. So, and this is very common for people when they first go raw, is instead of looking at what you can do where you're at, they decide they're not going to do it at all. It's all too hard. So they might have, and what a lot of people do is they find fruit and they've decided they want to do fruit, and they go from wherever they're at. That could be just a standard American diet to wanting to do fruit. And I talk about this so much on this channel about how it's like being a gamer, right? Is you can't get through level 10, which is the fruit, if you haven't mastered level 1 to 9. You're going to
Yes.
learn how to collect coins, survive in level 1. That's where you're at when you first go raw. And every time you fall a little bit back, you get a bit forward, you can then have the privilege of doing whatever you want on the raw lifestyle. But I've yet to see, and even if people do commit to just juice or fruit straight off the bat, majority of them go further back than where they started. So I encourage people to look at, this woman was really struggling with hot food. I said, you can have warm food. I warm up my curries to 42 degrees Celsius in winter, and that's the same temperature as people eat cooked food.
Yeah.
I do warm soups. I do more dehydrated food, because that's where I'm at. I'd rather do that than go all the way back and feel absolutely terrible and have to climb my way up through the levels again, right? So it's like the biggest thing I want to give people the idea in their head is be so for real with what is you're possible in doing. Because even there's a whole other topic here about the dopamine you get when someone sells you some sort of program that's going to fix your life in 10 days. You see all these photos, you're like, I'm going to do it. And you're feeling good just from being like, from seeing this and feeling like you're going to, the result. But you've got to plow yourself through the 10 days. People get to about 3 days and go, raw vegan isn't for me. So they're just some points. But the biggest thing I want to first say is you have to work out exactly where you are. And it might be being vegetarian for 3 to 4 weeks, learning how to cut out processed food and animal meats, and then cut out the byproducts. And like, you do not do wrong by learning how to be at some level of healing.
Definitely. I'm in total agreement with everything. And it reminds me of something I try to share with beginners if they're in my, groups or communities, or when I'm commenting. It's like I love the whole rule of addition before subtraction when it comes with raw food,
I love
because,
that.
you know, at first you really have never tried to eat just raw food before, most of us anyway, when we came into this lifestyle. And start with what you know, and start to learn what you like. Make it very simple. And that's the approach that I took by mistake, because I didn't know that there were these beautiful raw recipes. I didn't know that you could use a dehydrator. I had no idea when I first went raw. I thought raw is a salad. So I just wanted to eat as big of a salad as I could every time I was eating, right? So it started like that. And then, you know, I said, oh, I'm still kind of hungry because, of course, I'm used to these dense foods. But I knew instinctively, or at least I had always heard, you know, you shouldn't eat a lot of, I had been on low fat diets, right? So, of course, my first intention wasn't to think that I could have fat. But then I realized, hey, that's okay. Nuts can be something you can eat on a raw diet. So when I was still hungry, I would add nuts to the salad. And then I ended up finding that avocado could help fill me up if I needed to. And then, like, so most of my food ended up being like vegetables, like lettuce, cucumber, well, fruits, vegetables. And then it made it so easy because I said, I'm just going to eat this one big salad every day. And then I eventually started learning and thinking, you know what, fruit isn't bad. Like I've been told my entire life, like you know, you shouldn't eat all kinds of fruit because too much sugar, you know, all the things we hear.
Yes.
But I mean, I didn't know that in the beginning. So I was eating like a very small amount, like a little bit of blueberries that I would laugh at now. And then I realized, oh, I can have fruit. So I start, like, whenever beginners come to me, I always tell them, you know, the way that I do it is I eat fruit at lunch when I'm hungry or something raw. Just eat until you're full and then make a big salad for dinner if that's where you want to start at. You can always learn, you know, recipes and start watching YouTube videos and things. And the rules, please don't bring yourself into this with restrictive rules. When you're hungry, eat, and whatever it is that's raw, fruit, vegetable, nut, or seed, don't get into the nuance where somebody may say nuts are not really raw. If they said raw cashews on it, I was eating them because to me that's raw, you know. And I think
Yeah.
my point is keep it very simple. Make sure you're starting to enjoy, find what raw foods you like, find that, you know, things you already like, put in that cart and fill up everything, have it in your house, and start enjoying the foods that you're eating. Try some different dressings if you're having salad. If you want to try raw recipes, don't worry about one day overnight just cutting out everything that you've already known, because that's going to bring your brain to a deprivation, and you're going to find that way, we've talked about this before, to run the other way. Because I'm like, if I had thought about I can't have anything, I can't have this, can't have this, can't have this, can't have this. And as you get into the raw food world, you start to learn from different opinions and influencers. The list even goes down. First, it's just I can't have meat and dairy and cooked food. And then it turns into I'm not supposed to have more than a half of this, or I'm not supposed to have this kind of fruit. I'm supposed to eat, like, you know, no nuts. Some people are saying you should
Yeah,
eat
it
nuts.
goes on. It definitely goes on.
So simplify is my thing.
I,
Keep it
I also
real simple.
I also think you should think through what your goal is. Like what your goal is right now. So mine at the start was to go raw. So that meant, well, some days, even if I overeat, I'll wake up and if I've eaten raw food, I'm still raw. If I haven't eaten enough, I have spoonfuls of a nut butter. I wake up the next day, I'm still raw. You know, it was my goal was to be raw. And what I've noticed, I'm almost 5 years in now, is there was a period where I went lighter and lighter and lighter. And when I think back, I really didn't think about, is this sustainable long term for me? Whatever you choose to do and teach yourself, it's definitely beneficial, like doing a few days on fruit or I've done a couple months on juice. I don't think I could ever go back to doing that, but they're experiences I've had. But what I did when I first went raw was create a lifestyle I can go back to. So that's very sustainable. And that is, I actually long term, although I'm doing more of a Brooke Goldner protocol right now, would love to be on an abundance of everything, as in like cashews, nutritional yeast, apple cider vinegar, all of it, because it's all got different levels of nutrition in it. Also, I want the experience of different flavors. It's just, I think, and I just think it's more sustainable. I think it's very, don't get me wrong, if you live in a tropical climate and you have real dense fruits, you're going to do much better doing like more fruit than the majority of us who are in colder climates getting unripe fruit that's quite watery most of the year. But then again, just work out what your goal is. And even if like, and be like, and when I say goal, I'm not just talking about my goal is to fix my knee or get rid of my MS. What happens after that? Are you going to go back to the diet that you used to be on? Are you going to find middle ground? You're better off first off starting to get to close around to the middle ground, or at least if you go on some sort of protocol and you default back, learn how to do the diet that you're going to go back to. So just say you do want to do like a Brooke Goldner protocol, where you're doing like higher omega-3s and you're not having other nuts and seeds. If you cheat on that diet, right, you're better off going a few steps back than all the way back. You know what I mean? Like, it's because a lot of people go, it's all too hard, I can't do it. You're better off having a scoop of cashew butter or a couple of sweet potatoes or a bowl of quinoa or whatever, and the next day wake up and just get back on. It will be less harmful, and especially for your mindset as well. Like, it was so important for me when I first got on. I'm like, eat whatever you want as long as it's not cooked. There was no rules. I'm like, if you can do that, Skye, you're my hero. I used to actually think you're beyond a superhero. How does somebody go from having alcohol and cigarettes and vaping and just being homeless, and all of a sudden now you just eat? Though I was trying to do mostly whole foods, but cooked. I just think raw food is on just a completely different planet than like every other diet. Like, I think if you can do it, like, it's not easy.
Absolutely.
So if it's chaotic at the start, that's okay, because it's not easy.
Yes, thank you for joining, Carl. And I wanted to say there's a couple of things here that I thought of while you were talking. One of the things is have fun. I think
Yes.
if you want later on to do a detox and things like that, I think it's perfectly like awesome if you can, if you want to do that. But I would say start with learning to love the diet and starting to share, like if you have a people that you can share your food with and how you enjoy it, start seeing the tastes and textures, start slowly learning about the health benefits of raw food before you go into any kind of detailed of what you want to have and what ratios, because like Skye said, that's part of the trial and error. And don't look at it if you have a day where you didn't follow a raw diet, or like you said, maybe you had trying to eat low fat, let's just say, and you did have a higher fat meal, or let's say that you went and had cooked food. Like, that's not a failure. That's not something you did wrong. This is a lifestyle that you're building. So you just go back, see how if you didn't feel as good, you're starting to learn that you can be resilient. And I think resilience is such a thing, because we look at this as this like straight line journey, and it's not. You're doing this, hopefully, if it is something you really want to do, you can start by committing to a short time, but also think, like you said, long term. We're trying to find something you like to do. So if you're not having fun with it and you're not enjoying and learning to love raw food, that is not, you're not going to want to do something forever that you don't enjoy. And so that would be one of the things I wanted to say also, is celebrate your wins, because you can, every time you have a raw meal at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, if you had like fruit and you normally eat other things that day, but then at dinner, you go back and you have a vegan meal or whatever it is that your regular diet is, let's celebrate that you had that fruit, because it's showing you that you can make it through lunch with just fruit. And maybe that is the whole goal for that day, is to be all raw. But we always look at ourselves in the negative, and that self-love is the reason we want to put good things in our body. Start to want to work with your body, but don't also beat yourself up if you can't go, because not many people can even go raw even slowly. So it's something that you're retraining your brain, all of your neurons that have always known what they want to eat and how they eat and all this programming. And so each time you tell yourself, I did something good, that's going to make you want to do that again, more than feeling bad about one meal that you didn't eat that you committed to.
And I think let's talk about what started all this. And that is that the start of a raw vegan journey is not going to be like it is at 5 years in. Like you have to remember that when you make these choices, like especially
Yeah.
when things come up and you're like, this is so hard. I'm so overwhelmed. I can't do this. There's actually a part of the brain, I can't remember what it's called. It's actually a name which is hard to pronounce, right in the center. I think it is in the hippocampus of the brain. And I think Andrew Huberman was talking to, he's a long distance, I can't think of his name right now. He's very, McGoggins, someone
Oh,
McGoggins.
yeah, I've heard of him. Groggins or Keith or Ken
So,
or
he's someone in
something.
the comments can tell us he does like 24 hours running. He's done like, he was like an Army Marine, might have even been Black Ops. He's like really incredible. And these people push through pain to build themselves, right? Anyway, Andrew Huberman was saying there's studies now that say there's a certain part of the brain, maybe it's in the singular cortex in the middle, but that they notice in people who have had who have done things differently in life, who have overcome adversity, who have become very successful, that strengthens every time you say yes when your brain says no. So you can imagine, I think is it Andrew McGoggins or someone? I'll look it up in a second. So he's running for like 24 hours, in America. You can imagine the talk in his brain and the pain that comes up. So this part restructures. Also, is indicative of how long a person lives. That this part of the brain becomes bigger. And it was new research. I think it was about a year ago. I say recently, but I think it was about a year ago this information came out. And it makes me think how when you
David
feel
Goggins, thank
David
you.
Goggins,
We got the
yay!
answer from
Thank
gluten is
you.
poison over
Gluten is
here.
poison. Yes, okay, he's amazing. Like just very inspirational. Anybody who can achieve things that the average human can't, I feel we can learn off, right? But you kind of feel like that person when you go raw, and you should. So count every single win.
Yeah.
Every day you move forward, even if you're high raw, even if you end up having at the end of the day 3 scoops of cashew butter, it's not going to be the same as this in 2 years. It's not going to be as overwhelming. It's about how you get through and how you build that part of your brain. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
it's like a
Yeah,
muscle.
David
You're
Goggins.
building that muscle, right?
Yes, and that's so important. But just to remind yourself when you feel like this is too much, I can't get it right, I feel like crap, and keep going, keep going. Your brain is restructuring, and I promise when you turn around and look back, you keep remembering how much of a superhero you are. I feel like even with everything I overcame in my life when it comes to my health, going raw was one of the biggest achievements of my life, because for the first time, once I got onto the raw diet, I felt most of my life when I was sick, I was just, most of my life, even before I was sick, I'm just keeping my head above water. Life was like this treadmill where you're going from moment to moment, keeping your head above water. Once I went raw, I could actually feel my life moving forward. And that I'd never experienced before, to the point that 1 year raw, I had a party. Like they're like, do you want to do something? Because of, your 40th, you were kind of like alone. Plus it was COVID. And I'm like, 40th, I don't want a 40th. I want to celebrate the fact that I have eaten only raw food for a year.
You
Like,
don't
let's
even look like you're
party.
30 yet. What are you talking about?
That's
40.
right. I
Come
shouldn't give
on.
that away. But yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Like, what you're doing is going to feel very overwhelming, very different, very daunting. It will change over time, though.
And I think that has to do also, like you said, the rewiring, all of the things that seem hard now aren't going to seem as hard later on. Making those choices become automatic, just like your old choices are right now, though, if you're starting out. So you have to give yourself that adjustment phase. And just because you may not, be able to do it in these long blocks of time doesn't mean you're not learning, and those things are just as important too, those learning experiences. And I what was I going to say here? Someone else had told us it was David Goggins
Yes.
too. Yes, you mentioned something that you were just talking about, and I'm going to start writing this down when I think of something, because by the time I was like, oh, I forgot that
You talk
quickly.
too much.
It's so much to say. No, it's not that you talk too much. You just say such good stuff that it's like I wanted to bounce
Ah,
off of something that you said earlier, but I think we were talking about that celebrating the wins. And what else did you just mention that made me think of that?
the biggest point in that one was about how your raw diet isn't going to look the same in 5 years. And
That's
then
what it was.
yeah,
Yes,
uh,
it's so like different because you're going to be trying different things. Oh, and the clarity that you start to feel in your mind, I do feel like it gives you confidence as you
it
move
does.
on.
Well, that's what this lifestyle does, right? That I have never experienced in other lifestyles is you feel so much better. Now, guided, there are people who say they don't feel better, and I would highly recommend that maybe you have jumped too high, too fast.
Mhm.
And because people are like, no, I want to go through detox. Now, just on the back of detox, and I've spoken about this before, what I do notice in the community and people I work with is actually people that come to me wanting to now create a lifestyle when they've become quite undernourished is there seems to be a period when you first start being raw where your body will allow you to clean, right? And I think Juicing Jules has given the good analogy, or she likes to go by Jules Bailey now, is that, and I used to say it about a car, cleaning a car, and she talks about a house. You go in, you want to clean up the house, so you take out the trash, you start cleaning the walls, you clean off the mold, you get rid of all the cockroaches. But all of a sudden, when do you know to stop? You keep going in, you'll start stripping the paint. Before you know it, the walls will start falling down. I like that analogy. I used to use it with cars. If you start cleaning a car, it'll look shiny. You keep going, you'll scratch that thing. You will
Yeah.
damage that thing. You will, and like that's the analogy of what the human body is. And what I do notice is people then get symptoms when they've cleaned their house too much, right? And that can just end up being a nutrient deficiency, dehydration, you've overstimulated an organ. And then a lot of the mindset of this community is you've got to dig deeper. You've got to go deeper. And what I've noticed is I think the max is probably 5 years in. Just say you get to 5 years of cleansing, but most people it's 2 to 3 years. People at that point who get symptoms that try to fix it with consistent water fasting, then dry fasting with her, like end up sicker. Okay, there is a period where you at the start you are cleaning. I see people do it all the time. They eat light and they find they let go of a lot, right? But it's that warning that when you get into it, that you've created a lifestyle which is giving you nutrients. And my biggest thing is about the world we live in. We need a lot of protection. Like I find omega-3 fatty acids and making sure I have enough carbohydrates,
Mhm.
amino acids and fat and variation of nutrients, making sure I'm getting sunlight, making sure I'm grounded. It's not so much that the food is broken and the problem, it's the air and the stress and our past, which sometimes, well, I feel all the time, we need to protect ourselves against. So if
Mhm.
you strip yourself a lot with a lot of fasting, is you lose your protection. So a lot of people say, I breathe and I struggle, like who've done a lot of that. So it's just something to be mindful of, that there is nothing wrong with finding a way to just enjoy. I just think and also the greatest determinant of somebody's longevity in nursing homes is happiness. So
Mhm.
diets can change to people who smoke till they're 100 or whatever, but the one determinant is happiness. And a lot of the time, yummy food makes me happy. Can you actually spend your entire life? And that was the thing when I did all the high fruities, I was constantly craving vegetables and I didn't listen to my body. And then you end
Mhm.
up bolting after you got pushing yourself so long, eating a whole lot of nuts and vegetables and things, and your digestion can't handle it, but your body needs it. So it's also about, like, do you feel, I always think your body, although we say content, is really wanting certain nutrients, and that's why you crave things. And the more you get into the raw foods and teach your body and feel it, so yeah.
I absolutely agree with that, because think about all of the times, probably me included and you have switched around a little bit of those ratios and how many times I could have just given up. If something feels off, check out the essential nutrients and making certain you're getting all of that as you're also, you know, our entire life is we're thinking of something one way, and then as we try to, you know, rewire that, a lot of times we forget to nourish our mind at the same time that we are nourishing our body. So we can get so caught up, like you said, if you thought I'm not supposed to have a vegetable and it is raw, but you could have easily, like, that's part of rewiring that mind too, because then we can learn too much. Or if we're in a certain protocol, you know, we may think that we can't, there's no outliers of that to still be healthy. But I think
Yeah.
what we have to remember is to be sustainable with this, we have to enjoy what we're eating and enjoy the experience. And I think that is really a huge part of this for beginners, is have a good time and find a way to love what you're eating. Find a way to love raw foods, and really make sure that you are so securely bought into it, that you already decided this is something you want to do. Because when we really want to do it, we make a way for it to work, but we also can't be in a box and make it work too. So
True.
we
That's a
can't,
very good statement.
you know, only think that we can have one food and then try to enjoy it when it's not something that can be sustainable, for example. And that makes perfect sense what you said about, you know, detoxing. I feel like raw food automatically does what it's supposed to. When we
It
eat,
does.
it goes through our system and then it comes out. Like, that's the detox that's happening every day. And yes, there are more intense ways to do that with fasts and things like that, but it really, if you're someone who's tried this before and maybe after the detox you go back to eating the other way and can't sustain it, there's an alternative way, the way that I came into it to do it, that worked for me. So don't be afraid to try other methods of just eating how you would eat in the normal everyday life, but every time you reach for something, make sure it's fruit, vegetable, nut, or seed. And that really simplified it in my mind and made it so much easier, that it was just, okay, how am I getting through this meal, still achieving my goal, but finding ways to put these things together that I really truly enjoy. And your body, like you said, will tell you. It'll tell you what you need if you
Well,
listen, but it takes a minute. It did for me anyway, to learn that, because I had these, you know, my mind was very, you know, like I said, even I was scared to eat fruit when I first started, because I was like, oh, I'm going to gain too much weight. And then I realized, you know what? Fruit is can be a part of this diet and be very healthy. That's something that I had heard in my previous life or dieting world that I had to let go of. So we're not only learning to learn new things, but we're also letting go of old narratives that we're telling ourselves. As you start to lose weight and start to feel better, your mind starts to feel better too. And you kind of come out of this, like, this fog that I feel like I was in, where I'm able to say, you know what, I can be who I am. I can be myself and not be so taken aback when someone says something else about it that I don't feel, you know, that is true. I'm able to
mm,
stand up for myself and understand that, you know what, I'm not going to be any different of a person, but I also don't have to be down on myself all the time.
for sure. I think what I probably haven't spoken about enough about when I went raw, and maybe it's because a lot of the trauma is locked up, like it just does not come out. Like it's there, but it doesn't come out, is how controlled I was my entire life. You know, I don't think I even knew there was another way than doing a protocol, right? So
Mhm.
to come into, like, it's always a doctor or a surgeon or a nurse or a physio, or if you've been in psych units, you have no rights or controls. They might say you do, but you really don't. You know,
Right.
even when you're at school. So really, the whole what I think happens is when people come into this lifestyle is they're like, there's a protocol that they've got to stick to. And it's not their fault. It's just the fact that we've been controlled our entire life. I all of a sudden got to this point where I'm like, no one be telling me what to do.
Yeah.
If I want to eat a scoop of nut butter, I'll be eating my nut butter.
And
after
create your own, right?
I'll create my own. If I make a mistake, I'll learn and take a note, because the worst that really happens with raw foods is you bloat or you feel uncomfortable. It's not like you've had a chemical in your body and you're having this mass reaction and you've got to go to hospital. That is to say, if you have true allergies, I'm not saying go have mouthfuls of peanut butter, right? But use what you know about your body. And a very freeing fact is that nothing controls me anymore. And so when I do other protocols, I do. So as I said, I do very similar to Brooke Goldner's, but I'm quite happy to do juice. And when I'm missing a lot of organs that have been removed, including like the top part of my digestion, and I could say, that's why I do it. But in fact, everyone's had lives that are quite different. And who knows, you may find a way of doing something which absolutely peaks your body, your performance, your mental health. And it only is people who step outside the box, right? And that is, and you know what, you might learn that it bloats you. You might learn that you get a bit of an upset stomach. You might be someone who gets histamine issues and you get a rash, And I always think with the raw foods, I always find, especially with histamines, it's a bit up and down all the time. You don't know what's going to cause what. But the biggest factor and the most freeing thing is that it was just, I could have fresh food and no one be telling me what to do.
Yes. As much
I
fresh
was
food
loving that part
right?
of it. I'm free.
I love that. And it was so quick when this happened for me, but I just really started to love it. And I think it came from how I felt. I think that the freshness of it eventually, just like your taste buds change, your mindset is going to change too. The way that you think about those other foods later on down the line, they don't even smell good really anymore. There are times where you have cravings for certain textures, but some things, that's going to change. It's not going to always be as hard as it is when you first start out with this. You're going to start to find that raw food feels like your go-to, and then other stuff would be the exception. And you have to stay with it though while you're doing it, and like you said, find a way to get through that so that you're not feeling deprived.
Look, if long-term foods are still triggering you, usually if it happens to me, I haven't eaten enough.
Nutrient or something too.
Or there's a nutrient problem. So if I mine is more salt and savory, and usually it's a mineral problem. If I've eaten a lot and I'm still smelling food and I think it smells good, my brain's now latching on. It's going to be like, I'm going to try and make you eat this if you don't start looking after yourself more in whatever diet you're doing. The other thing to be mindful of, and I am going to do a live talk with Lisa about this, just because she's all up in this, and I'm really more regimented on it now. And that is, and I didn't do it at the start, and I still don't regret not doing it at the start, just because I needed to free myself. I needed to find Skye, is how important there are some things. There are some caveats to doing. It's not just a raw diet. In fact, there's more people with B12 and iron deficiencies are absolutely very, very high on a meat-based diet. But I actually had my blood test done for the first couple of years and I had no issues. I have had things come up, and actually, it's now I'm mindful that I want to make sure I have enough iodine, and usually some sea vegetables will have enough if you eat them every day. And I do sea moss gel. I also just, at the moment, because my thyroid functioning got a bit sluggish in my last blood test, nothing that the doctor wanted to do anything about, not that I would let him, but I realized I wasn't staying on top of that. The other is Brazil nuts, is just have a couple of Brazil nuts for the selenium. So you've got the iodine helping making the thyroid hormones, but then the byproduct that comes from the thyroid, you need that selenium to take it out of the body. Minerals are so important for the body. That's why we love our veggies and greens, and that's amazing. But these are just some things to be mindful of. Is you want to keep on top of your B12 as well. So we said iodine, we've said selenium, and mustard has selenium as well.
Nice.
That's amazing. Now, what is
one of my salad toppers? I sometimes do the mustard on it, so that's good to know.
Oh, I love that. I love mustard, but I have a histamine reaction to it.
Oh, okay.
I'll use it occasionally, but it's not something I can do all the time, but I wish I could.
What's
But
this up?
mustard
I've never had a Brazil nut yet.
for selenium. So also we want to keep on top of, so we've done selenium, we've done iodine. We want to keep on top of our B12. And because I'm missing that top part of digestion, I had been injecting already, and I just inject once a year, a B12 shot. But most people can use things like nutritional yeast, or you can use like a supplement for the B12. Now, my iron improved. So I say get a blood test once a year just to see how you're tracking. Like, I'm missing the part of my stomach which absorbs iron. My iron improved. I used to have to, when I was eating meat and I was eating cooked vegan, I had to have infusions every 3 to 4 months. Since being raw in 5 years, almost 5 years, I've had 2. So I would say just, look out for that. Some people have deficiencies or methylation problems and weaknesses in different areas of their body, right? So don't be afraid to add something in, because adding just the iodine in has made so much difference, especially just carrying fluid and feeling fatigued all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I will drop the spray and just do the CMOS gel, but I let it go. So I'm just topping up at the moment. I'm really good with vitamin D because I'm in the sun, but some people aren't. And you can put mushrooms in the sun and increase, I think, by 500% the amount of vitamin D just for an hour before you eat them. And Chris Kendall, who lives in cold climates, I think he supplements because he got really deficient, but he does that. He looks after his vitamin D. But I did want to do a video with Lissa because she's really on top of everything specifically. She knows exactly what food is going in and what it's giving her. The other thing people talk about a lot, I don't have it, but is things like, is it purslane? Is that what helps with, it's either iron or amino acids. I don't know. I'm just having a look here, guys. You might be able to help me. I know people take it. But yeah, JJ, is there anything you... Oh, here it says omega-3. So some of the omega-3s, sorry, omega-3s literally saved my life. That's the other one I wanted to just mention is be mindful as a raw vegan, whatever seeds or fats you do, try balancing them with chia and flax oil if you can't digest a lot of seeds. So you can do days on, your cashew dressing or your macadamia or your tahini, but make sure either you put some chia seeds in to the blended dressing, or grind them up, put them through your salad, or alternate days do higher omega-3s. They do help. We want those anti-inflammatory properties. That was the other one.
Yes, I agree. All of that. I think something must have happened. I don't know if I froze
You
or
did.
you started to
just
freeze.
Zoomed out and then you came back.
Okay. Because I thought I was like, is something wrong with me? All of a sudden, I'm seeing like a blurry screen. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go eat my salad. Like, what's going on here? Talking of nutrients. No, I'm just kidding.
Also, I just wanted to touch on, I did no added salt for 2 years, and I ended up with, and a high fruit, I ended up with sodium deficiencies, high blood sugars, and low iron. And I corrected. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, I think I'm delayed still. I didn't mean to cut in there. I was going to say, that was what I was going to say while you were talking, is when you say, like, when people say sometimes, I don't know why I'm craving salt or I'm craving salty foods, that's a really important mineral
was really
to
good.
not ignore.
Yeah, that would be why when I did fruit, I craved so many vegetables. And then obviously the thing is, and a lot of people go, oh, there's enough in celery and tomato. So if you ate 5 heads of celery, you couldn't eat that. 5 heads of celery, you get half a teaspoon, half the recommended daily intake of sodium.
We'd be stalking some celery, wouldn't we?
But also, salt is released by the kidneys when you pee. So technically, the amount of sodium is just helping you pee. Okay. And yes, some people don't have weak adrenals and would do quite well. And I was doing celery and tomato as well, not 5 heads. Definitely not 5 heads at night. I was doing those. No, you're right there, JJ. And I'm not telling people what to do. This has just been my journey. And I actually don't need a teaspoon of salt. I can go by cracks. My body knows when to stop cracking the salt. It's usually 4 to 6 cracks. It's not much that I need. Yeah, and it's not. There's one that lets out big chunks, and it's not that. It's just a dusting on top of my salad. Where, in truth, if I don't go overboard, you can't really go, oh, I tasted that much. There's not. It's just that's and I think you have to work out, because if I have too much, I feel terrible. But then the problem was not having enough. And these are just things I've learnt along the way. And in truth, I wouldn't change my journey for anything. But I would highly recommend you testing yearly just to know where you're at. What you do with that is your choice. But just knowing, because that's why we do it. We don't do it for kicks and giggles. We do it to know we're healthy. You want some award? Put it on the wall.
Exactly. Totally agree. Don't get dogmatic in that, in my opinion, because it's very important to know, like you mentioned earlier, we may not be living in the same environment, have the same soil as someone else's fruit. So it's very important that we think, for ourselves and say, if there's something going on, sometimes we did a podcast on this, that the craving might not just be something coming from your mind because you wanted something salty. It might be actually happening because, don't deprive yourself. If you feel that, think it over of what could I have that's raw, look it up, look into it, instead of all of it, all at once, all of those things, just make sure you're getting the essential nutrients within the diet so that you feel your best. There's so many benefits of raw food. So don't ignore one thing and have it cause you not to enjoy your raw food diet, I would say.
Yeah, and technically all cravings are something the body needs. And I'll give you an example of this. Just say you've eaten a ton of nice cream, okay? And someone brings out you're literally full, you're stuffed, and someone brings out a raw or just puts past you a pizza, you will more than likely almost feel kind of like nauseous because your body's full. It's cueing you not to go near it. But just say you haven't eaten all day and a pizza comes out. If you eat that pizza very quickly, you get a huge amount of calories, but you also get, and we're talking about a standard pizza here, you also get salt, which will hydrate the cell, whole lot of salt very quickly. The brain has that lodged in there. So the best thing to do is when you crave is I like to recreate recipes. That's just my hobby and my thing. Like if I've been craving pizza for a few days, I'll make one.
We love that that's your hobby.
Oh, I know, you guys, you reap the benefits. But that's what I do. But go through some things in your mind as to what you can do, even if it's you're in a dire situation. It's some veggie sticks and some scoops of nut butter. If you can grab some fruit, do what makes you feel better, or something. If you are that, it's not for you. It's not for you to work out exactly what your body's telling you, because it could be anything that it's learnt that's in the pizza that you need. But go through a few things in your mind as to what you could eat. Do I feel like an ice cream? Do I feel like veggies and dip? Do I feel like a salad? And hopefully one of them will ping enough that you will get what you need in a healthier way. And that's all part of that brain retraining as well. But yeah, essentially craving, as much as we like to banish them, we die without them, because it's basically the signals our body's giving us, because it needs something. And that could be as simple as calories. Quickly.
Absolutely. It's some reason when you finish talking, I can still see your mouth moving, so I must be still delayed. So I was trying to
of the raw foods. My mouth just keeps moving.
No, I don't think it's you. It's my digital, something's going on digitally here, but I was just glad that I wasn't frozen. So, but that was definitely amazing. I completely agree with you. I think the main thing that we went over today is keep it, simplify it. Don't make it too complicated. Eat what you enjoy and pay attention to the essential nutrients. And it's not going to be the same for everyone, but if you celebrate yourself and every little win of raw food and not get caught up on what you can't have, or did I do this wrong?
I love all
That's
that.
so important.
Yes. Well, thank you, JJ.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I had fun again. Thank you, everyone. Dawn, J&J Video, Gluten, Anthony, thank you. Carl, thank you for popping in. I appreciate you all. And of course, Skye, for all your amazing wisdom and knowledge.
Oh, it was so good to see you. And just a reminder, this afternoon.
Oh, Neb. I forgot Neb.
This afternoon for Australia time, so 4 p.m. in Australia, there's the Retreat podcast. We'll be talking about letting go of addictions and really finding yourself. And then after that, a couple hours later at 7 p.m. Australian time, 9 a.m. European time, there will be the Europe Christmas party. So, yeah. Bye. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.